Let's fucking roll. All right, everybody, welcome back to McBastard Studio. I'm Brad Banyas. You're listening to the SaltyMF GOAT. We're here in Foco, USA, and today we're really excited to talk to the founder of Fetch Park. And he's got an amazing story. He's got amazing events. It's kind of like a social hub for dogs and people coming together and drinking beer. And it's amazing. So Salty Nation, welcome Stephen Ochs. Welcome.
Thank y'all for having me. Like I want Fetch to be the happiest place you get to experience in your day. That's the end game.
Well, I was telling you before, I know that's true because we were talking, I have kids that are, from 19 up, and they take their dogs to dog parks a lot. So when I told them that I was interviewing you, they're like, "Oh, that place is amazing, Dad. You would love it. You can drink beer, you can watch TV, you can bring the dogs. It's just a social, happy place." So I know that's a true statement. So your objective, I think, was met.
Thank you. Look, at the end of the day, dog parks are so antisocial.
Yeah.
You go there now and people are just sitting on their phones, they're not talking to anyone. And the whole message behind Fetch, look, I wanted to create a safe environment for the pups, but for humans, I really wanted to get them off their phones and meeting their neighbors and building community. And it's been amazing to see how it's evolved.
It's ingenious. And I was listening to you were talking about, how Atlanta is a melting pot, which is true. I'm an Atlanta native, which is bizarre,
rare,
right?
yeah.
It's rare. Like people go, "Oh, you're from Atlanta?" Like nobody's from Atlanta, right? But it is true, like what you said, that you got a lot of people coming from different places across the states or settle in Atlanta because there's good jobs, cost of living, all that good stuff. But it makes perfect sense. Like, where do they go? And they've got their dogs, and they're like, where do they go for community? Where do they go to connect? And bars and all that good stuff. That's great. But you're outdoors. You've got the things people already love. They're watching sports. They're listening to comedy. I see you guys have comedy night.
Yeah.
You have bands. It's like, it's ingenious, man.
Thank you.
I love it. So.
And look, you don't need a pup to go to Fetch. Like, I think people feel so isolated in the day and age right now. And like, I really want people without pups feel comfortable. Come to Fetch, pet some dogs, grab a drink, get some serotonin, and meet your neighbor.
Yeah, I love it. Serotonin, that's key. It's rare with all the negative news and stuff that's going on just in the world. I mean, it's really, we do a lot of stuff with people in Europe and other areas, and it's really sad, just the state of, when you grew up, conversations, meeting people. Like, we didn't have all these things. Like, you meet like a cul-de-sac and build a fire and drink beer and hang out. Like, I feel bad for a lot of the younger community because they were either they couldn't do it because they get in trouble, or they were taking pictures and they got caught, whatever it is. But just from watching what you guys are doing, it really is. It's like, I hate to say this, I don't know if you want to say it, but it just strikes me as like it's like a social hub. I mean,
no, I mean, I wanted, it's a dog friendly social hub. It's a place where dogs can run around in a safe environment and people can meet their neighbor and strike up conversations, get off the phone. It's
ingenious. And I'm jealous because I saw you have Airstream. You have like a 1967 Airstream or something.
Yeah. Each park has it between 1967 and 1970. I think it's around like 76. They started losing that retro feel. Yeah. So we got to stick with the old school ones.
I'll have to talk to you about that because I want to buy one of those for like Salty to do like a remote podcast. Yeah. Or we just like pull up and we're in this whole Airstream, and I just think that would be a lot like
No, I mean, I didn't personally restore it, but I mean, it's a process getting those things restored.
I know. Yeah, I know. So like, I know that your background is in, I know your parents kind of bred dogs, right? Yeah. So you've been around,
since I can remember, I've been around dogs.
Yeah, that's. Did you have a dog in college? I'm just curious. Like, were you someone that had a dog with them in college?
Yeah. So my parents bred spaniels, so on the smaller side. So like, right when I got to college, I was like, I'm gonna get a big dog. So I got a boxer, and at the time I was playing baseball at Florida State, and you have a puppy. So all my neighbors were like, "Oh, you're on the road, like I'll watch it." So it wasn't like this hassle that people talk about. I had a community who watched it when I was on the road.
Yeah, we need community. Like,
absolutely,
as human beings, we need connection, and we need connection not only with like-minded people but different people. That's how you grow. That's how you learn, right? You learn different things from people that, I meet so many people like doing this, which is this is the most fun thing I do, right? You get to sit down with someone and hear their story, and like, as an entrepreneur, which, you know, you've had much success here, you're up to like 6 locations.
5 right now.
Five locations. So my wife did say, hey, ask Oaks that he needs to put one in Forsyth County up near the polo field. So the committee out there, you need to do it. They're great spots. That's all she said when I left today. I was like, look, I don't think I'll ask him, but I don't know if he's going to do it or not.
I think for now we're putting a pause on Georgia and focusing on kind of expansion outside the state.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll come back and
Come back,
look
yeah,
at it.
good. Well, she'll be your fan. So, like, I want to know the story. So this is 86 proof, right?
Yeah, Bark Batch is 86.
Yeah. So this is your bourbon, right? Yeah. That you got. But tell everyone, because I thought this is just awesome. Why is it the 86?
So in the process of trying to raise funding for the first fetch, you know, when I started, there was nothing like it. I couldn't point to something in New York, something in California, and be like, hey, it's just like this.
Yeah.
There was nothing like it. So every bank I went to, it's like, hey, I love your concept, but you know, we can't compare these numbers to anything. Like, I'm sorry. So like I heard no from 86 banks. I was going to South Georgia. I was going to Tennessee. I was going to Alabama, Florida. And same thing every time. It would just get down to writing. They're like, hey, we don't feel comfortable because there's nothing like this. So I ended up having to raise, you know, funding through some athlete friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's key that's community too. Like some of these people I stayed in touch with who was like, look, I had to sell them on this crazy idea of mine and then they bought in.
Yeah, and I know that you have that athlete mentality, and we all athletes have that, like, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you said no now, and now I'm pissed, and I am gonna prove you wrong.
Yeah, and look, I've been extremely blessed in my life to be around people who are extremely talented. I've seen what hard work does, and that was huge for me.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one, sports teaches you life isn't fair quicker than anything else. You'll see someone bigger, stronger, and faster than you who
Every day
doesn't try, and he's elite.
Yeah.
But you know, I was lucky enough. My roommate in college at Florida State was Brian Kelly, who is Florida Georgia Line fame.
Yeah.
And, you know, he used to serenade us in our living room. Like I saw how hard it is, you know, for him to have the drive to do that. And through him, I met Chase Rice, who, you know, another country guy, but like, throughout my life, I've been extremely blessed to be around people who wouldn't give up. And, you know, you see that. You see what it takes to be successful firsthand. I mean, it's one thing to hear about it and people talk about it, but to see the drive it takes, that really helps when you're trying to build something.
Yeah. And I mean, and like, the sad thing is great ideas, you know, go to die at the finance point. Because like they couldn't see your vision. They're all numbers. And yeah, you want to base your risk and all that, risk reward and all the good stuff and numbers. But great ideas in a lot of times take a long time. Like I know that you probably, to get permitted for your locations that's a pain, right? I mean, you don't just say, okay, well, I'm coming to Forsyth County. I'm going to put that there. We'll be there next week. It's a year process. And
it took
frustrating.
I mean, even once I got the funding, it took 2.5 years of permitting. You know, I had 2 crazy neighbors in the NPU who were convinced that this wasn't a real concept, and we just wanted to rezone it to commercial for a gas station.
Yeah.
So I mean, you deal with things like that. Or we had someone who the senior center was named after them in the neighborhood who loved the concept but hated dogs. So she fought it. And then you got the city who they're very inside the box. So, you know, you're trying to convince city officials on drawings, you know, drawings in a dream, and it's very tough for cities to put things in a box that don't fit in a box.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's not even like in your deal in there kind of with, you know, state, government, all that. Even in, you know, just in general, I think, you know, so many ideas just get passed over because like they can't see the vision. And I think that's why entrepreneurship is important, because you saw the vision. Like you saw it, and you saw it in your mind. You saw what was going on. And that's just, I love it. It's just amazing. Amazing.
I think you just have to be willing to understand what you're about to go through and not let it take you down.
Yeah, that's great. So what's been the most fun part about this whole process for you? Like what was that moment? Like you were like, I know moments we had here, like with this stuff. What was that moment? Like you remember, like that was my my favorite moment. You don't have, I mean, if
I
you
have
don't want to
a
share it, you don't
no,
have
no, no. I have a really tough time looking back and realizing stuff. Like I think it's the athlete mentality. I'm so focused on what I can do
to.
better, what's next, that I have a tough time being in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think the two things that really stand out, we've had, I think, 14 engagements at the park, 14
Yeah.
people who have met at Fetch and gotten engaged at the park. And that really speaks to the community. But the one thing that really stood out, there was one Saturday I was running around with my head cut off. I'm running around picking up shit. And I met three older gentlemen. They came up to Atlanta every month for chemo.
Yeah.
And they made sure before they headed back to Florida that they stopped by Fetch every time because they said, after the hardest moment of their month, they get to experience the happiest.
That's awesome.
And that kind of, that hit me. There were definitely onions. It just is one of those things where
That's awesome.
it puts things into perspective. And these are three older gentlemen who had no dogs. Like they were literally just there
Yeah.
to get the vibes. And I love that.
Yeah. The vibe, I think, and that's kind of what, I get from that. Cause you look at, okay, it's beer, dogs, other things, but just that vibe and excitement. Like I have dogs. I got 3 dogs. I got 3 labs, and labs are happy and just they're happy to see them. Whatever. You get a different feeling around like animals sometimes, and if it's a good
Yeah.
environment, So,
It's I have extremely long days. I mean, there was a while there where I was working 18 hours a day. I mean, I got trench foot. I literally was at the doctor, and I have a pretty high pain tolerance,
yeah.
and the doctor, it's never good when they call in another doctor, and they're like, "Is that what I think it is?"
Oh no.
And because I was filling up water bowls and tubs so much, my feet weren't giving time to dry, so I literally got trench foot. But like, you're there, and it's tough to be upset when you're in the park. You're surrounded by dogs, people, and it's just a happy environment. It's tough
Yeah.
to be upset.
That's awesome. That's great. So the people, obviously your friends invested because they knew you, they knew what kind of person you were, they knew you're a hard worker. When you then went outside like your friend group, like, cause you're expanding, right? You said
Yeah.
you've got a new initiative and you're expanding. How was that experience? Like, cause you had some success,
Yeah.
right? You'd done the first one or whatever. It was proven.
Yeah.
How was that? What was that like?
So I mean, after the first one, when I needed to raise for expansion, outside of Fetch, I was on the board for Enduring Hearts. So we raised funding for pediatric heart transplant research, and me and a buddy of mine on the board kind of convinced them, hey, I know this is pediatrics, but we have an idea. Every charity does a gala; they're all the same.
Yeah.
So we pitched the board on, hey, what if we did a high end whiskey gala? We did private barrels, we did things you couldn't find. And year one, they were like, "Okay, we'll try it." We had a
Right.
$30,000 budget, and we doubled our money. So the board was all in at that point,
Yeah.
and we got to the point where year three we raised over $1 million in a
Wow.
night.
That's
So
awesome.
that was great experience for me. But some of those board members saw the vision and saw what I was able to do at the whiskey gala, and they kind of were like, "Hey, we'll jump on board as an investor for Fetch growth."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Well, it's always the things I tell people is like, you never know what you're doing now, what it's preparing you for.
No, and I'll say anyone who's trying to learn business, like you
Yeah.
want to start a business of your own, go work with a nonprofit.
Yeah.
You're going to be hamstringed with budget. You're going to be doing a lot of things that you may not think will come in handy, but you're going to learn a lot,
Right.
and you're going to be doing a greater good.
That's awesome.
You're getting the experience while doing greater good.
Yeah, we've done some work and do some work for some charities on their technology stuff, and just came back from the Himalayan Children's Charity, doing a good job in Nepal. A couple of weeks ago, went to one of their charity events. They raised some money for that cause. And I mean, it also is tough though, nonprofits too. I mean, raising money, you're always raising money. It's just one of those things you see that like this is wow. It takes, and most of those people are volunteers. They're not.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't paid.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the experience you need kind of if you want to be an entrepreneur, because
Yeah.
you're facing all the same things.
Exactly. So, like, how many parks are you at usually during a week? Do you go to every one of them? Do you?
I mean, I'm at a park every day,
Yeah.
normally 2 times a day. I'll be at one park in the morning and then a park in the evening. But I try and be at the parks, and I've got a great team around me now that I trust from the ops side that really do a great job of understanding the brand, understanding what Fetch is all about.
Yeah, and your marketing's great. I mean, all you need is some really good pictures of cute dogs and people having fun. It's your marketing's awesome.
I
And I know
think
you said you didn't do a lot of marketing when you guys started.
so. I mean, the thing is look, I feel like a brand needs to stand for something,
Yeah.
and Fetch to a T is me. You know, you walk into a park, it's got the minor league baseball vibe
Yeah.
because that was me. Like half
Yeah.
my life I spent playing baseball, and I really wanted the brand. I knew what I wanted the brand to be,
Yeah.
and I think if you have a brand that speaks to people and is authentic, it markets itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I always like people are like, oh, the true authenticity is hard to fake.
Yeah,
Right. And everybody wants to kind of prefabricate or, oh, we just need to be authentic. Well, if you're saying
yeah.
that you just need to be authentic, you're not authentic.
No, or you have like you go out and pay a firm that it's just like marketing throw up.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to
No.
it. It's not a brand.
Yeah.
You're paying for what you think is in, and that's really the exact opposite of what Fetch is.
So tell me, like, I know it's a membership, right? So I want, like, can you talk a little bit about the different memberships? So obviously you do not have to have a dog.
Yeah, so it's free if you just want to grab a drink at the happiest bar in town and watch the game, you can walk on in.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah. So it's membership based for pups, and think of it more like a gym membership. So every dog has a profile. So it's got a photo, it's got, contact info, but it's got behavior notes. Our staff in the park called wolf wardens who make sure the dogs
love
play
it.
nice. Like there's behavior notes in there because just like people, some dogs don't get along.
Yeah.
And so they'll have notes like, hey, these two really shouldn't be near each other, and they'll keep an eye on the park. But, every dog that comes in has to have current vaccinations. Their owner is signing a liability waiver. And look, we ban dogs. I mean, there is a strike system. You get 3 strikes, but if there's egregious behavior, like you're going to get banned.
Yeah.
I truly wanted to create an environment where you could socialize and hang out and not have to worry for your dog's safety.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I know I've been to dog, like the county dog parks.
Yeah.
Right. It's not Fetch Park. It's just and you go there and someone's like, oh, my dog never does that. No, well, your dog's absolutely like crazy. It does do this. You're just trying to say that it doesn't.
Or you go to the dog park and you have that guy who's just like, dogs will be dogs.
Yeah.
And we get that at Fetch. Like you gotta walk in and like, no, that's great. Go to the park, but not at Fetch.
Yeah.
Like that's not gonna roll here.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's just I mean, like I said, when I started digging, I was like, I just couldn't get over. I was like, dude, this makes like it's one of those things when you start and nobody like believes in it or nobody sees it, and then once you do it, like, oh, that's really ingenious. That's a great idea, and you're like, okay, well, I was telling you this 6 years ago. Like I was trying to tell you this. It's amazing how people come back around.
Yeah, I mean now, you're starting to see dog park bars pop up all over the country, and it's kind of cool to see. Like I kind of started this movement.
I love it. You did. You started the movement. That's awesome. I mean, you never give up on something you truly believe in. I mean, sometimes shit doesn't work, but get back out and refine it and refine it and refine it, and then you find people like you said that like really kind of understand. But I think, I can tell just by I can tell immediately. I see a lot of people like you're a decent human being. Like you're a good guy. You're just like you talk, you get right into it. And I think if you've got that kind of demeanor, it's a lot easier than if you're a numbers cruncher guy and you want to try to, tell people, well, here's the financial model behind it. And everyone's like, okay, well, no, it's about dogs and people love dogs and social events. So
we try and give back as much as we can. Kind of the favorite campaign I've started is every year we do a Lift Dogs Not Weights campaign.
I saw that too.
So if you like coming to the park, pick up a pup, post it to social, use a hashtag. We donate $1 to a nonprofit.
That's awesome.
And that rotates each year, but we give back as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, your merch is great. I didn't know when we started Salty, we have an apparel side to this thing. And, like I don't know anything about apparel. Like, it's a pain in the ass, but I've seen some of the stuff you're doing. It's great. So a couple things I really like that like would draw me, like, so in the morning, you're, kind of the bar area or the Airstream is kind of coffee, right? So
So we have a full coffee bar in the mornings. People come, we have Wi-Fi throughout the park. So they can come grab a coffee, knock out some work like their pup run before they head to work.
Yeah.
And then obviously in the afternoons and
Bar
evenings it
bar kicks
shifts.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, I like even though like you're talking about football games, like y'all have big screens
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
sports games and things playing. I thought that was great. But what was really interesting to me is, tell me a little bit about like the live events. I saw your comment. I think I mentioned the comedy,
Yeah,
the
yes.
music.
So we
So
do Barks and Banter, which is a live stand up. We do live music every Friday. We do trivia. But we do 15 to 20 large events a year. Always wanted, I want to be as creative as possible. What is
yeah,
something that you could never bring your dog to that you wanted
yeah.
to? So, in years past, we turned one of our parks into a high-end art gallery. We had, we actually had like two Picassos, a
Oh
Warhol.
wow.
How many times in your life
Yeah.
are you gonna go to a dog park and see these rare pieces of work?
Zero unless it's
Yeah.
at Fetch.
Last year we turned one of our parks into a high-end fashion show. We had a 50-foot runway. We had brands like Rag and Bone and Bonobos, like these
Oh my
huge
God. That's
worldwide brands.
yeah.
And that was a fundraiser for Canine Companion. So they had the little service pups walking with
Yeah.
them. But look, if it's creative and unique, we wanna do it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I think that's, it's not just a dog park. I mean, that's the point,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's surrounded by that and the love of the dogs. I was telling somebody, I mean, animals have just become so much part of people's lives.
Yeah.
They like their dog better than their spouse sometimes. So
Yeah. The amount of times I've heard that in front
that's
of the
not
children
me, honey. I love you way more
is
than the dog, but
baffling. I'm like, I understand that's how I feel. Do you really want to say that in front of your son? Okay.
No, I love my kids and my wife more than my dogs, but like what I want to take a drink of this. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for
I'm going to
it.
take a sip of this. So it's the Bark Batch, 86 proof, right? And
We had to water it down a little bit.
yeah.
People drinking during the day, you don't want it to be 110 proof. It's going to hit different.
Yeah, oh, I love. So you have a background kind of in the alcohol and beverage.
Yeah,
space,
and
right?
then I threw a charity whiskey gala
Yeah.
for the first 7 years of it. I love whiskey, so this was something I always wanted to do. We had to cut it. We had to
You had
make
to cut
sure
it?
it wasn't gonna knock you out after one drink.
So all my in-laws are from Kentucky, so bourbon and moonshine. I told Steven, I gave him my cup. I said, I'm a redneck. I'll just drink it out of the bottle. So here goes the taste.
You can be honest. You're on the spot.
It's good. It's smooth.
Yeah, it had to be smooth.
It's very smooth.
It's a day drinking whiskey. It's not.
Yeah, it's
not a
very it's
nightcap
very
whiskey.
smooth. It's good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm very grateful to that. I'm very grateful to that. Like I told you before, we had Uncle Jimmy's moonshine out there. Steven said, or Oaks said that he didn't really, he wasn't going to do that, partake in it. But
So I used to be in the liquor store, but like doing communications for liquor stores, and we had 2 or 3 regulars who lost their eyesight from moonshine. I'm like, I'm not gonna mess with that anymore.
so I got to tell this story because I have a lot of friends that kind of make their own moonshine, and we were at a business dinner, and some guys from California came in, and they were just talking about, oh man, don't you all like moonshine in the South and whatever. And for whatever reason, I had a pint of moonshine in the back of my seat that I forgot about it. And these guys started talking about it, and I was like, oh shit, y'all are gonna think I'm like crazy, but literally I have some. And they're like, you just carry moonshine around? I'm like, I forgot it was in here. So anyways, so I let them taste it, and they're all going around. They said, do you want to taste? And I said, no, I'll wait a little bit. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I want to see if you guys go blind first. And if you go blind, and they're like, are you serious? I'm like, no, it's good, man. Trust me, I know the guys. So
You say that till you get up in the country, and then you see the moonshine. Like, oh, you take that sip first. Let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, and it's an old radiator. They're using old radiators, but God bless all you moonshiners out there. Still, you've got some good moonshine. Apple, strawberries.
It'll get you where you're trying to go.
Absolutely. You got to be really careful. We did have a barn party one time, and this guy brought a bunch of peach and strawberry moonshine, and it was really like smooth. I mean,
Yeah.
still high alcohol content, but smooth. And they were in Dixie cups, and all the ladies are like, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And they're like just sipping it, and they're going back, and I'm like, "No, you gotta slow down. You can't do that. Like it's not like wine. I think they had to carry about 8 people out. So yeah, if you're drinking moonshine, be responsible.
It's the same with whiskey. So that first
Absolutely.
year we had the whiskey gala, we had 12 whiskeys. They were all private barrel. So starting at like 110 proof.
Oh wow.
And we didn't know what we were doing. There was no chasers, there was no mixers, there was whiskey or water.
Just walking
And,
around drinking whiskey.
People were, this is a black tie event, and people were just blitzed.
Yeah.
We had one guy who won the auction for a custom tux. He literally picked the material, they'd size it for you. And he was so gone that he thought the display tux was his. So he went and put that on. And it was literally like fat guy in a little coat. Like the thing was tiny. He had his undershirt like sticking to his zipper. And he walks out and everyone's just like, damn, what is he doing? And in Encore, my buddy on the board, he was like, should we tell him? I was like, nah, let it ride.
Fat guy in a little coat. I love it. I love Tommy Boy. What a classic movie.
The lesson is you got to be very careful what the proof is. Make sure you know.
Exactly. And if you're not used to it, don't drink it. If you're drinking wine or beer and then you go to hard liquor, you're so I'm a pro at that. I'm good. So, but like, what would you to tell, like, how do we get people that, like I'd heard of you guys, but like, certain demographics, like, like I would say, like you got all kinds of people that come to this, but like if someone that's never been to one of your locations, I know the Alpharetta, downtown, you've got them all over the place, but like, what would you tell them to expect, or why just come out? Like,
I mean,
first time, hey, just, come out, what?
You want to go watch the Georgia game, come experience it at the happiest place you can. Or me as a Florida State fan this year, I need to be surrounded by dogs as like emotional support. Like maybe you're not a Georgia fan. Maybe you're having a rough college football year. Come watch a game at a place where it's going to be a happy environment and you can at least pet some pups.
Well, I'm calling out to Aaron Murray. Aaron, you can't let this guy get away with this year. You've got to be on him every day.
He was on me after that. Look, Georgia won, not taking anything away, but they beat the practice squad. Yeah. It is what it is.
Oh, we're little shit talking right now. We're gonna stay at it. It was funny because I have our Goat Full Dead tea in Athens, and I asked Stephen if he was okay if I wore this. So he said I was okay.
They're my number 2 school.
Yeah, that's right.
I pitched it Florida State and Georgia. I'll root for them both, but look, Florida State. My dad went to Florida State.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Only time I've ever seen him cry. I'll never forget it. I was 17 and Mike Martin, who's, passed away recently, but, coached at Florida State for like 40 years. And he was the one who handed me the scholarship offer. And it was the only time I've ever seen my dad cry. Not when I started Fetch, not as each park opened, nothing. But when I got that scholarship offer, he was waterworks. And I'm 17 at the time. Like, Dad, you're embarrassing me. Like, let's go. Calm down.
Well, I will say this about Florida State fans. Every Florida State fan I know is like they're all in. Like they're hardcore all in, which I can appreciate that, and like my kids get mad because I let my daughter graduate from Georgia. Madeline, great job. But I went to 5 different schools. So I'm one of these guys. I like players. So if I like a player on a team wherever they're playing, I'll root for them. It drives and I'm always an underdog guy. I'm always, no matter who you're playing, if the underdog has absolutely no chance, and it just pisses my kids off. They're like, you're not loyal. I'm like, no, what am I going to do? I can't make Florida State win this game. I can't make Georgia win this game. I'm just the guy watching it on TV. There's nothing I can do about it. So,
I mean, look, we had the Taggart era, we had the Jimbo Fisher era. Like at this point, we've seen it all. I was very lucky. My dad took me to the 93 and 99 national championship games. I got to experience, the Bowden years, which you may never see again. I mean, imagine how many championships they win if there's playoffs, absolutely. Or if you don't need a kicker. But we've been through it all. At this point, it's just another bump in the road.
Hey, I feel for you guys. I'm not going to cry about it, but I'll give you. I'm not sympathy, but empathy. I'll give you some empathy. Fair. But you're right. It's those legacy experiences. Like I've talked about this before, but I lived in Boston for a while, not a long time. But my dad got transferred up there, and I was a young kid from like 4th grade to 8th grade in the Celtics heyday.
Yeah.
And my dad and I would go to a Celtics game together, and it's Bird and Ainge and all the legends of Boston. And we would get a steak at a butcher downtown Boston every time after the game and go home, cook it. So like today, people are like, well, who do you root for in the NBA? I'm not a huge NBA fan, but it's the Celtics. I mean, because of that,
those are things you never forget. Like I'll never forget the 93 national championship game. We left early because my dad didn't think he was going to make the kick. So now when I try and go to a game with my dad every year for Florida State, and I will not let him leave. Like, we're not leaving early. Like, you scarred me for life for this. Wait to hear the game-winning kicker in the parking lot.
Yeah, and he's like ready to go. Like I'm that guy. I'm like
He wanted to
"Oh,
miss traffic.
yeah, that's like I'm that old guy. I'm like, let's get the hell out of here in third quarter. Like, no, it's a good. I'm like, no, let's get. I don't want to wait. So I appreciate your dad's thoughts on that now. But
I won't make him listen to this so he remembers.
yeah, you do. Yeah. Well, don't let your son off. You can still give him a hard time. It's okay. I miss those days. My dad was passed, but he was
Sorry to hear that.
he was a I mean, he would just give you shit about like jokingly,
Yeah.
like he'd give you. I'll never forget we we were getting off the bus or whatever, and we got our ass kicked. I was a football guy, and the first thing I get home, you're like, we weren't supposed to lose, and we get our ass kicked, and he goes, yeah, man, you look really good getting off the bus. I saw you getting off the bus, but and he's like, you missed this tackle here. Oh, by the way, you missed that tackle here. You were in this track. And I was like, I know. I know. You don't have to tell me. I feel bad about it. But I appreciated that later in life. So
Those are the memories that stick with you.
yeah, man. Well, you're obviously a successful guy and a good guy. And I think the idea is ingenious. And like I said, we need more venues that are community oriented. And I really like what you're doing just around bringing people together with music or, the runway show or art or comedy. Like people need places to just go
Yeah.
release,
I mean, they need that place to get away from everything or get off their phone. I think what ends up happening is people just stay home and isolate and doom scroll.
Yeah. Doom scrolling's terrible.
But look, if you're looking for a place to go,
scrolling.
we do every year we do Cujo's Carnival. It's like our Halloween party.
Oh, that's awesome.
People go very intense on the costume, which
Yeah.
look, Halloween's my favorite holiday, so I'm all in. Every year I dress like Cruella de Vil and run around chasing puppies. But like we have them at each park. You're looking for something to do on Halloween, come pet some pups in costume and grab a drink.
And that's at every park.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
park.
So tell everybody just so like where they are. Like, so if you're listening to this, obviously we've got a pretty good Atlanta following because we're local.
Yeah.
Like, we're local. Like tell everybody like where the parks are
Yes.
so they can.
So we have one up here, not too far from here in Alpharetta, and then we've got a few in Atlanta and Buckhead on the west side at the Works, and then our original park is in Old Fourth Ward,
Oh, that's cool.
and then we got a park down in Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, yeah.
So now we're in that phase. Look, I really wanted to understand the model fully. How far these parks needed to be apart from each other before I step out of Georgia. So now we're kind of working on our expansion nationwide.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So can you say where you're going next?
I
You
mean,
don't know.
We have a short list. We're in negotiations.
That's okay.
there's,
You don't have to. Tell.
NDAs, but
Yeah, that's fine.
we're looking at some cities, and hopefully here in a year or so we'll have about 5 more parks open.
Coming to a state near you.
Hopefully,
right?
yeah.
Fetch Park. That's awesome. Like, do you just go? Is it just Fetch, or do you go by Fetch Park? Like, is that there?
Fetch is fine. Fetch
Yeah.
Park Fetch Dog Park just grinds my gears.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go to LA Fitness Gym, you don't go to Publix grocery
Yeah.
store. It's just
Yeah.
Fetch Park.
Yeah.
And plus, look, like I said, I want people to feel comfortable without a dog coming in the doors. And
Yeah.
the minute you call it a dog park is the minute there's
Yeah.
that added barrier where it's like, I really want to go in there, but
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, or even this dog park. You think of the things like we were just talking about. Shit, this dog's going to come over and bite my dog or whatever. But you've got the Wolf Patrol. So
We got wolf wardens.
Wolf Wardens.
Well,
I'm
I have a
sorry.
big issue with puns.
All right, sorry. Wolf Wardens. All right.
Our check-in staff is park bouncers.
Park bounce.
Yeah. And then my pup is our CEO, our canine enjoyment officer.
I love it. Well, man, it's ingenious. I loved like hearing your story and how people turned you down and how you just kept at it and how your attitude and that's pretty salty and we love people that don't give up. If you don't win every day in life, and I think that's the misconception people think. And that I hate that whole winning or nothing. You're gonna lose some. But
Look, I think that's one of the great things I had growing up as a pitcher is you can never get too high or too low. You've got to stay the course, and
absolutely
that helps a lot when you're an entrepreneur. And every day it just seems like the sky is falling or it's the best day ever.
Yeah,
It's a life of extremes.
I'm manic anyway, so that's what my kids are like. Dad, you're like even off the charts, spaz, happiest guy. You're just like down. You know, you're not. You're out. And I think that's because you extend so much energy, and when you get to the point, your body just like, all right, shut down.
I have, my stress reliever is the gym. So I have like a 24/7 gym membership, and sometimes I'll go at 11 p.m. Like I really got to vent, and the gym is my vent. Or I have a very bad issue with pastries. So like,
Oh, you like
I have
sugars?
a really bad sweet tooth to the point where my friends will come up to me and be like, "I'm surprised you still have both your feet."
Well, this is so funny because do you know Sugar Shane's here in Atlanta?
I do.
Okay, so you know Shane Quillen because I texted him before. I said, "Hey, I'm talking to Stephen Ochs, and have y'all ever like met or be like maybe y'all could do some kind of crazy dog cookie or something?
Yeah.
Like it would be like a cool like that's the one thing I've seen with this where we pull like different brands that kind of aren't in the same thing, but we've done a lot of collab and introduce people. So when you said that, he was just on our show last week.
Yeah.
Sugar Shane. So when you said that, and he brought me a box of stuff and I ate it.
Oh, they're fantastic.
So I ate the whole box.
I have an issue like when I'll go, I'm obviously meeting with developers looking at sites, and I'll plan my whole stay around like where the best pastry shops are, and I'll just have 4 or 5 pastries as my that's my whole day of meals.
Well, it's funny because even he's a fit dude. Like, he's a real fit dude. You're obviously a really fit guy. And I said, I was like, you bastard, you're just sitting around eating cookies all day. If I did that, I'd probably be 500 pounds. Like you look like, you look like a marathon runner or something. So
it's the stress working out. Or I'll feel like I'll go have 2 donuts and then I'll just feel like a piece of shit. And I'll be like, I gotta go to the gym. What am I doing with my life?
It's everybody's vice. I think I'm one of these people. If you put like a gallon of ice cream in front of me, I'll just eat it.
Look, you know what they
Eat the
say.
whole thing.
You can't trust someone who has no vices.
That's right.
I mean, mine is pastries and whiskey.
Yeah. Well, your whiskey's very good. So this is great. So can they get this at the parks? Like,
So we sell it at the park.
Okay.
But if you want to get a bottle of it, there are liquor stores around each of our parks that sell it.
Yeah.
And a portion of the proceeds go to a different nonprofit every month. But if you head to Short Barrel's website, they'll show you the locations of where you can get park back.
Yeah, Short Barrel, right? Yeah. Like shortbarrel.com is good. You'll have to help me because I do want to do a Salty's whiskey bourbon.
I got you.
So you'll have to help me go through that.
And through the Whiskey Gala, I have connections with
that'd be fun. I mean, it's just like I said, I like things that are fun and interesting and have community and everybody's not taking things too seriously. I mean, business is serious. You got to turn profit and all that. But I think just the reason behind it and your story behind it, your parents being dog breeders, you growing up and you playing baseball, it's like divine intervention, man. It's just like, this is what you're supposed to do, right? This is it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and look, MLB, if you're listening, we'd love to do something for the All-Star game. Yeah. They're going to be in Atlanta. It's a good fit.
Come on, Major League Baseball. Come on, maybe we can do that.
I actually, we have these partnerships. We do a Puppy Bowl every year with Canine Companions. We work with Canine Assistants. So we do these events, and I reached out to the Braves, and you've seen these bat dogs in minor league stadiums and I was like, I went to the Braves and I was like, hey, I'd love to do a fetch partnership with Canine Assistants and Canine Assistants will train the service animal and, it can be co-branded and it'll go get the bats for the Braves. And I was like, look, it's blown up on the minor league teams that have done it. Let's do it. And the Braves get back to me and they're like, so you can't have a dog be a bat boy in Major League Baseball because the bat boys have a union. Yeah. Which is just insane to me. First of all, when I was growing up, bat boys were bat boys. Yeah. They weren't like men.
They're unionized.
Now they're bat men with unions.
Yeah. That's insane. Hey, do you know the guys at Georgia Hemp Company?
I do. Okay. We do a lot of stuff with Georgia Hemp. We have their CBD and THC seltzers up at the park.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, and then also, their Simpleaf is kind of the CBD oil, sports oil for the Braves. So.
Yeah, we just look as someone who whose body is falling apart from all the years of
I feel you, man.
sports that
I'm beyond you now, but it gets worse.
I tell Joe, I'm like, Joe, let's we need THC. We need not the CBD cream. Let's get the THC
Absolutely
in here for my muscles.
They're super good dudes. We did some stuff with them at their Green Hat Classic with the Kyle Pease Foundation.
Yeah,
to support the Kyle Pease Foundation, and that was a really fun event. All us knuckleheads are out. You know, everybody's all hemped up on the golf course, and we're all flying around interviewing people, and they're like, who the hell are these guys?"
Look, that's how I turn my brain off. Sometimes I can't turn my brain off, you know, and just thinking about things that we need to improve on, or you know what happened that day. So sometimes I need an edible, just turn my brain off and get some sleep.
That's right. And that's great. It's great for that. And then sometimes I've had a few that I went into a different zone, but I didn't like that. I didn't like where I went on it.
Fair. I was telling Joe, so my parents they don't drink, you know, my mom still calls weed the devil's lettuce. And she had hip replacement surgery, and pain pills didn't really do much. And she just struggled the whole time. And I'm in her ear. I'm like, Mom, just try edibles. They'll help you sleep. They'll help.
Absolutely.
And so she had to have a second hip replacement surgery. And she finally gave in. She's like, Stephen, I'll try it.
Yeah.
And so my dad said she passed out on the couch and slept for like 16 hours. So now
he's trying to give her an edible.
She's still very, like she's worried she's going to get it. She's literally worried the cops are going to come in and break down her door.
Yeah.
So like I'll meet her halfway with edibles.
Yeah.
And they're the Delta kind that you can get from Georgia Hemp. But I'll meet her like the Braves halfway at the parking deck. I'll be like, Mom, I have your drugs, and she'll get like really embarrassed. But I mean, she'll swear by them now. She just won't tell her neighbors about it.
Yeah, we've kind of gone from your brand to other brand, but I've got good friends that didn't want to go on, the drugs that they're going to prescribe for cancer, for their pain.
Yeah.
And they swear by them. So anyways, we didn't go off on a CBD or, THC thing, but I think we're going there. But anyways, Georgia Hemp, there's a call out for you guys. So anyways, we like you guys. There you go. But, well, man, I can't tell you, I'm so excited for you to expand outside, Georgia. You're an awesome dude. You deserve all your success, and I appreciate you being here on the show.
No, thank you for having me. I had a blast.
So if we want to go to the website, which will probably show you all the locations, it's just fetchpark.com, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So for all Salty Nation out there, you're here local or coming through Georgia, check out fetchpark.com. Take a look. You can follow them on Instagram as well. If you type in Fetch Park, you'll find it, and then the different locations have their own Instagram accounts. But
and the one thing I would say is like I said, you don't need a pup to come.
Absolutely.
Grab a drink and pet some dogs. But if you are bringing your dogs, look, vaccinations are required. We need DHLPP, including lepto, bordetella, rabies, and everything's. And the dogs got to be spayed or neutered if they're 8 months or older.
I mean, that's probably pretty common. Even if you're going out of town and you're going to leave your dog for a week, it's common.
I think the biggest question we get is why the spay and neuter, and I think people don't realize like dogs can get ball envy. Like they can smell the hormones.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you could have a dog not do anything, and a dog just go after it for not being neutered.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like one of our dogs still has his nuts, so he's the one everyone comes after. So they have that sense of smell, and they know where we don't. We're probably not paying attention. But I can smell those. I can smell those cookies. I can smell those desserts. But man, like I said, it's been awesome. I hope we can do some things together. Like talk to you a little about the music events later and what we're doing there. I think it'd be cool to highlight the bands and bring more people there. We're really excited about.
Yeah, I'll have to keep you in the loop. We're working on I think our big event this year is going to be a large scale concert with dogs off leash and bringing some bigger artists and maybe see if we can set the Guinness World Record for most dogs off leash at a concert.
Dude,
we'll see.
That's cool. Well, I'll be there.
All right.
I'll bring my 3 hounds. I've got one that's blind, poor child, but he'll sit next to me. He won't go out anywhere.
We have a lab that comes to our Buckhead Park.
Yeah.
Completely blind.
Yeah. He is
super friendly, but he comes in so happy because it's the first time he really gets any like activity, and he just comes into the middle park sprinting, barking at everything.
Yeah.
But he super friendly. He'll walk up to you and kind of run into your knee.
Yeah.
And then he'll just sit there and get pets and then walk to the next human. It's the cutest thing.
That's Chubb. That's all right. He's Chubb. He's named after Nick Chubb. Georgia. But I will come for the next Florida State Georgia game, definitely, and sit right next to you if that ever happens again.
I mean, I think we're scheduled for 2 years from now. I think Florida State might be in the Big Ten by then, but we'll see.
I love it. Well, brother, I appreciate you so much. So, like I said, check it out. We've had Stephen Ochs on. He's an awesome dude. Check out what he's doing. It's really cool. There's pretty much something there for everybody. So whether they're going to go have coffee in the morning, have drinks in the afternoon, try a little bit of his bourbon, get the pups out, let them stretch their legs, and meet some people and get off the, what would you call the death scroll?
The doom scroll.
Oh, doom scroll. Quit doom scrolling out there.
Get off me, your neighbor.
Get off of it. So that's all, folks. Let's go.